Whether we are there or not, ITSP Magazine still gets the best stories. Plenty of conferences and events spark our curiosity and allow us to start conversations with some of the world's brightest minds. In person or virtually, Sean Martin and Marco Ciappelli go on location and sit down with them at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Together, we discover what the synergy of these three elements means for the future of humanity.
Marco.
Sean.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Yeah,
I was just expecting you to do the vroom vroom part.
Yes, I didn't do the vroom vroom.
Let's do the vroom vroom. It's at this point is our signature to start the chats on the road to Black Hat USA.
That's right.
2024 in Las Vegas, and you're going to go a little bit more on the technical kind of question. I'll be cheerleading because I am very excited for a couple of things. One, of course, to go to Black Hat and do the coverage. Always one of a great event that I keep reminding. That's 10 years ago. That's where ITSP Magazine was born. So it's always a great opportunity to celebrate a birthday. The other one is that we get to meet again on location this year with SquareX. We had them as a sponsor at RSA conference, and now we have it here.
Now in Las Vegas, a long flight from Singapore to the state of Nevada for the team. And I'm excited to see Vivek again and some of the other folks and get an update on what's going on. But first, we're gonna learn about what some of the use cases are. We've had a couple good chats with Vivek, but today we have Jeswin on, who is architect of the solution there at SquareX. Jeswin, how are you?
I'm doing great, Sean and Marco. How about you?
Yeah, very, very good. Excited to chat with you and to learn more about some of the use cases, and then a bit about what Vivek and team will be talking about in Vegas. Before we dig in, can you share a few words about your role at SquareX and some of the things you work on?
Yes, so I'm the chief architect at SquareX. I'm responsible for managing the backend infrastructure and making sure that the product works really well from security standpoint, as well as our product is primarily a browser extension. So we have to make sure that, again, it's not hampering the user's productivity. It does not cause any sort of privacy issue on the browser. So making sure the whole system works fully. And I've been in the security industry for past 6 years, published my work in various conferences, conducted training in Black Hat and other conferences as well. And I've also authored various open source tools. Few of them are like AWS Goat, Azure Goat, which have had like really good impact on the community.
Well, very good.
No pressure for you to keep things running.
Right, it's not an easy job, but I know you guys are making huge leaps in with this product, and I'm excited to meet another team member, which is you. Would you like to take the opportunity to give a little introduction for those that haven't heard about SquareX yet? What you guys do, what is the focus, and a small, short origin story before we dive into.
Sure. SquareX is founded by Vivek Ramachandran. So Vivek also had one more company called Pentester Academy. We were into cybersecurity education before this. And we had a massive impact on the industry. We did really, really well. And that time, Vivek noticed a lot of issue in the consumer security problem. And more importantly, the antivirus solutions and all of the existing security solutions were not doing that good of a job. That's why, we hear about phishing scams, just the numbers keep on increasing and the people keep on getting impacted more and more. That's where, again, Vivek decided that we can go ahead and dwell entirely into the consumer security space in order to provide better security. And this was primarily because all of the existing security solution, they did not have visibility on what's happening on the browser. They did everything on your host level where you can monitor application. But let's say an attack happens from Chrome, the underlying application will know that an attack came from Chrome, but it wouldn't be able to tell that this attack came from, let's say, a user who sent a message on LinkedIn, from where he went to another website, and from where the payload was downloaded. So all of the existing solution lacked visibility on the browser. That's where SquareX figured out that, and more importantly, Vivek figured out that if we can protect the user on the browser level, we can mitigate a lot of threats, and more importantly, save people from getting hacked, save them money, and so on. So that's how SquareX eventually came to be. But again, it was years of, I'd say, frustration, as well as a lack of things that the existing solutions were not doing, that eventually gave all the ideas for Vivek to formalize SquareX. So the idea was that we'll have a browser native component, and then eventually one component on the host machine, so we can protect the user entirely. So to give you an example, let's say you might go into a cafeteria and now you're connecting to a open network, or it could be a rogue network. Now all of these insights are not available to you as a browser, so that's where we can chain this up with the local agent and then get as many data points as possible. And now on these data points we can act really well. So SquareX started off as a consumer version, but we also figured out that when it comes to enterprise spaces, all of the employees are at risk right now, because your existing solution, we have Swix, we have your endpoint detection, they still have a loophole, which is basically they don't have visibility onto the browser, and SquareX can fit into the right place and enrich the metrics for both of these, so that as an admin, let's say if something goes wrong, you can very easily control the blast radius. You can figure out who all are impacted. You can apply policy to block certain attackers from sending emails, and so on. So a quick overview of SquareX.
That's really cool. And I want to dig into one piece, because I think for me, it's important, having spent time building enterprise solutions, is the need to be able to scale the protection and all the management stuff, which you talked about, but also in a way that doesn't impact the user. And you mentioned that it also is a consumer-based product, which, I mean, the end user consumers do all kinds of weird things and access all kinds of fun stuff and interesting networks. And I mean, so to be able to operate in that environment, and then of course enterprise users are also just users, but to take all that knowledge and experience in the consumer world and scale to that level, talk to me a little bit about that and how important that piece is as part of the puzzle of working properly in the enterprise.
I think that's a great question. So it was great that we started with the consumer and then eventually ventured into enterprise. Reason being, we have to be very cautious of the user's privacy, what data we are sending. So in a way, we restricted everything to the browser, and at the end of the day, the less we can do on the cloud, the well it can scale. So the user's device have become much more powerful in the past decade's time. So a decade back, we used to have like a 4 gig device where browser would let's say consume 1 gigs of RAM. Now we are talking about 16 gigs, 32 gigs, or even powerful devices. And now browser is consuming close to 60-70% of the RAM, because most of your workflows are just there on the browser. So we wanted to ride this wave, and with the advantage of web technology such as WebAssembly, we can do a lot of compute right there on the browser. So our original idea was that when we are rolling out to end consumers, we want to be as privacy safe as possible. At the same time, everyone hates when we stop them from doing things. That, let's say antivirus is installed, it blocks you from opening file. People hate it. They'll go ahead and disable it. So our philosophy was, we have to be productivity first. We have to make sure that we don't change the user workflow, because change is very difficult to perform on like regular users. And enterprise, the story is a bit different, because admin can enforce, but the regular customers, they'll simply not use your product. So in a way, we stuck to few principles, which was again being productivity first, making sure that we don't block anything for the user. We provide them an alternate way. Then the second approach was that we have to make sure we are privacy safe as much as possible. And the more we can do on the browser, the better. Reduce the dependency from the cloud. More importantly, because it scales really, really well. It's a browser extension, can run off on any device, anywhere on the planet, even offline to some degree. So that's where we went ahead, packaged a whole file analysis module right there in the browser. So it's capable of inspecting the file, figuring out that there are some malicious parts of it, and it's even capable of removing those malicious parts on the browser. So having those constraints in a way allowed us to build an amazing product on the browser. And I can confidently say that SquareX is probably the best browser security company out there, because we are doing so many things. And now this stretches out to our enterprise product, where we can take the same principles and scale it on an amazing level, and make sure that the user does not feel that something is slowing down. Because at the end of the day, let's say you have a security solution which sends everything to the cloud, it is doing analysis there, and then you are getting the response, which slows down, and sometimes you might have to wait. It could be like few milliseconds, but still it keeps on compounding over time, and you'll get frustrated. With SquareX, there is no such worry.
Well, I want to make one comment thinking about Vivek being frustrated and say, well, this product doesn't exist, I'm going to make it. And I think the best product actually do come from that kind of situation where you just like said, I have the capabilities. I mean, I couldn't do it because I don't have the knowledge, but somebody like Vivek that say, this is something that I live on my own skin, on other people, and I'm going to do that. But what I really like is the scalability. And my question for you is, and you mentioned you can use this browser solution all over the world. And of course, me also being European, I think about, well, there is GDPR, then there is the California Act when it comes to privacy. So it can easily be regulated and tune it down or up in the privacy according to where the user is using the browser?
Correct. We can very easily control all aspect of data that is being sent. So the best part of SquareX is, again, the data, you have an option as an administrator, right? So data can never leave the browser as well. You just need like minimal amount of data. Let's say something goes wrong, that information can be propagated back. But that could also be done in an anonymous way without tying anything to the user. So all of those are available as part of a configuration for the administrator.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, let's talk about a couple of use cases to help illustrate some of this capability. I think, probably one of the more common use cases of an attacker, threat actor doing some fun things through the browser would be phishing, right?
Yeah.
So maybe give us an example of how that attack looks and how SquareX comes in to save the day there.
Sure. So attackers are like smartest guys on the planet, right? So they're getting very, very creative. So there used to be a time where they'll send a phishing link over your email. But now what they're doing is they're leveraging the domain authority of existing platforms, such as it could be GitHub, it could be SharePoint, it could be your Office form. So imagine that I create a SharePoint as an attacker. I embed an image which takes you to one other legitimate site, which in turn takes you to a phishing site. Now, what I'll do is I'll share that SharePoint with the victim, and then they'll get an official notification from SharePoint. In a way, I have evaded all of the email security solution, because now SharePoint is sending you a notification. Now, the same thing can happen with GitHub. Let's say I tag you in a comment. Now you get an official notification from GitHub. You click on it. Now GitHub takes you to a link, which in turn takes you a phishing site. This way, again, the user will be fooled, and most of the folks who are not, security focused, a lot of developers as well as a lot of IT folks, so they'll think that, I just got prompted for a login page when I was coming from SharePoint. So this login page looks like Microsoft, is probably Microsoft, but the reality is it is a phishing page. So all of these techniques are being used by the attackers. So in the GitHub case, what they did was they had an OAuth login from the GitHub comment. So now the moment you go into the OAuth login of a fake phishing page, they go ahead, get the permission to access all of your GitHub repository. They deleted those and then asked for ransom in order to get back. So imagine that the company repositories are being impacted. And now it's a big concern for the companies. So attackers are doing all of these things, and they're leveraging the domain authority of all of these big platforms, because they can bypass your security solution very, very easily. So with SquareX,
can you speak to that quickly? Because I think the endpoint, right? This is a legitimate message through a browser. You're clicking on that in the browser. The endpoint has no chance of
Correct.
doing anything now with that, right?
Yeah. So the endpoint does great job once a file touches the disk. At that point, it might be able to figure out that this file is malicious, or it might be able to analyze it live. At best, it has the information of which process triggered the file download. So it will know that a file came from Chrome. But in this case, we are talking about phishing attacks, and endpoint at this point does not have any visibility into what's happening on the browser. It can't see that user came from this site and eventually he is entering credentials. So all of those things it can't. So endpoint will be completely, I'd say, bypassed at this point. And if you have a secure web gateway, that will also be bypassed, because now you're getting traffic from like SharePoint. And what the
It's just too late. It's too late. It's like, hey, I have a thief in the house. It's better if you block it before you come in the house.
Correct, yeah.
So how does SquareX operate in this case?
So SquareX, being on the browser, it has the full context of how you came to be at a site. So let's say you came from a SharePoint link, then you went to a different site. From there, you went to a different site. So an admin, you can very easily enforce policies that, let's say you get to a login page from SharePoint, but that login page is not of a Microsoft official login page or known login pages. You can very easily block entering of credentials. With SquareX, you can also go one step beyond, and we can do a live analysis, because we see what the user is seeing. So we can do a live analysis, pick out all the text, and figure out this is very similar to the existing websites like Microsoft, Okta, Google Login, and so on, and prompt the user that, oh, you are on a phishing website. So being on the browser offers us a lot of flexibility in doing all of this analysis, and this is happening right there on the browser live. So we can even perform content categorization. So we have all of the URL filtering solution, which primarily rely on domain categorization. And one problem with that is it broadly classifies it. So to give you an example, let's say I have abc.xyz.com. And now the categorization for xyz.com is IT technology. So ABC, the whole domain, will be classified as IT technology. So attackers leverage this. They'll host website and leverage the domain authority of the whole domain. So, and due to which, again, misclassification can happen and a lot of content can seep through. With SquareX, since we are analyzing the content, we can figure out that, oh, this is a sports site, this is probably a gambling site, this is a phishing site. All of those live categorization we can do by sitting on the browser. So this way, it's like offering a robust phishing protection solution.
And if I remember correctly, there's something cool you do with, because you said you see what the user sees, and you're doing some cool rendering there, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
So we do the live analysis. We take a look at the whole screen. So whether, irrespective of whether it is DOM or whether it is canvas, whether it is an image. So the one example I can give you is, let's say, QR code, right? So what ends up happening is attacker want to take the workflow to, let's say, less protected device. So this is where they can perform an out-of-band attack. Imagine that you get an email with the QR code. Now your device is protected with all possible enterprise security solutions, but your phone might not be. So in a way, they transition all of this workflow from your regular device, which is enterprise device, onto your mobile phone, which could be a personal device, which is less protected. And this way, they can very easily scam as well as phish people on the phone, because now you're limited to visibility on the phone. You might not see the whole URL. You might not even see the URL at times. So attackers are like very, very creative. But being SquareX, we are able to figure all of this out and then deduce that, oh, this is a potential QR code. We offer administrator flexibility that they can outright block QR codes, as well as if it is malicious, they can block and perform operations on top of it.
Very cool. Very cool. So I know we're coming up on time here for this chat, and I think plenty more use cases to discuss, and I think the best place to do that, of course, I want to have more of those chats, but another great place to do that is in Las Vegas with the team there. So the team's going to be both at Black Hat and at DEF CON. You have a booth of both, and I believe you're speaking at DEF CON as well, Vivek is. Can you give us some info on what's going on there and what people can expect when they meet you?
So SquareX is doing both at Black Hat, as well as we have talks at DEF CON. So the DEF CON talk is about breaking secure web gateways. And it is about major issues around secure web gateways, how they can be evaded. And it's like a couple of fundamental flaws in the system, because it's built on stateless model. So it processes each request and it only takes a look at data on the network level. So there are various techniques. We'll showcase all of those in DEF CON, as well as we have two other talks in villages. One is in adversary village and one is in recon village. The adversary village one is around browser extension. So we ourselves run as a browser extension. We know what power we hold. So similarly, again, malicious browser extension, it is very easy to install. So what attacker do is they go ahead, purchase various extension from Chrome store that are gaining popularity, and then they'll release an update with some malicious code. And at the end of the day, it ends up compromising the user's device. So the talks are amazing talks around the extension topic, secure web gateways, and so on. Yeah.
Very cool. And like I was mentioning at the beginning, we had already some conversation with the team we met, and I have good memories of almost be back in Australia, New Zealand, all the Asian, Singapore area, because when we were at your booth at RSA, all of a sudden we ran into all our friends that are located in that part of the world. So I'm kind of excited to see Vivek again and the team at Black Hat and DEF CON, and I want to remind everybody that will be August the 3rd and the 8th, and DEF CON, I believe, is right after that. I don't know if we're going to stay for that, but we may change our mind. We haven't been at DEF CON in a while. And of course, I invite everybody that is going to be a Black Hat to come at the booth and look for you guys. But also, if you're not there, this is a solution that, of course, it's one of the coolest things out there in cybersecurity, in my opinion. We're honored to have you on board with the sponsorship and having more conversation with you. And definitely go to find out more about SquareX. Sean, I know you've talked to Vivek already several times.
I know. Great conversations. And I want to talk more with Jeswin. So hopefully we can line that up.
We'll have him back.
We'll have him back. I know. All these use cases, I think that's, for me, when we can start talking about operationalizing and what the threat is and how security administrators can actually respond to them, that's what I really love. So great to meet you, Jeswin, and great to have you on the show today. Wish you and the team all the best and safe travels for those that are making the journey from Singapore to Las Vegas. And hope you get to chat with lots of folks there in Black Hat and DEF CON.
Thank you so much, Sean, Marco. It was a privilege to be on the call.
Of course, it was a real pleasure. And for everybody else, stay tuned. There'll be more conversation before, during, and after the All Hackers Summer Camp that happened in Las Vegas. So be with us, even if you cannot be in Las Vegas. We'll bring you there. We'll share.
I know. We have another chat with Vivek on location. So stay tuned for that for sure.
Excited for that.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Sean and Marco's On Location event coverage conversations. Please take a moment to give the show a good rating and leave a comment. Remember to share this podcast with your friends, family, and colleagues. Come back for more conversations and follow Sean Martin and Marco Ciappelli as they continue their journey toward redefining cybersecurity and society.